So deadlift is such an important exercise as part of my go-to for strength exercises for surf ski paddling. And the main reason for that is there's not many exercises that really incorporate posterior chain strength in exercises. So we're trying to get back strength, glute strength, hamstring strength, because all of those help us with our leg drive and our connection and our power on the boat. The one thing with deadlift is it is quite an advanced exercise, so if you are doing it and you're not terribly familiar with it, make sure someone's helping you with technique and make sure you keep everything quite light. So we're using a standard Olympic bar and Olympic size weights because they create a nice weight to lift from. You don't want to be starting from right on the floor. And I've got on really light weights for today. So some of the important techniques to the deadlift, you really want to make sure you're loading through your legs and through your hips and not using your back. So our feet are quite wide. You almost want your knees pressing outwards against your elbows. You want to have chest and shoulders in front of the bar so that all the load is going through hamstrings and glutes, so through your posterior chain. Alright, arms are nice and wide. And from here, I'm pressing through my heels and squeezing my glutes to engage and lift up off the floor. Really nice up tall posture at the top end, squeezing the glutes, and then really nice controlled back down to the floor. Alright, so pressing out against the knees, pressing through the floor, squeezing up tall, and then lower back down. Depending on the weights and what time of the season you're in, you might want to do anything from 8 reps and 4 sets at quite a heavy weight, nice long rest in between, or you can keep it much lighter, 12 reps and only 3 sets. And if you're really going through quite a heavy strength building phase in your gym program, you and your trainer might even go down to maybe 5 reps and 5 sets. But if you need any help with how to program for what time of the season you're in, drop us a message in the comments and we'll be happy to help. Our next exercise as part of our go-to strength for surf ski paddling is a Bulgarian squat. It's a relatively advanced exercise, so make sure you know what you're doing and you've practiced it before you go ahead straight to this exercise. It does need a little bit of strength and a little bit of flexibility. To make this exercise more like what we do in the paddling stroke and in surf ski paddling, we're going to add in some shoulder stability. So we're going to have a kettlebell inverted upside down, so there's a little bit more stress going through our forearms and shoulders to control it. Nice full extension, bicep towards ear. And then what I'm looking to do is obviously we're going to be working unilaterally, so one leg working with the opposite shoulders, almost creating that sling effect as well, a little bit like the paddling stroke in the boat. From here, I don't want to arch too much, so I want to try and tuck my pelvis in, make sure I'm using my glutes and my hamstrings, and you'll see as I drop down into that lunge position, I really want to try and sit back so my knee stays behind my toe. So drop down, drive back up. Okay, so once you've got it, you want to make sure you keep full extension in your arm. Really nice, sit down, drive through the heel, using hamstring, using glutes. Obviously there's quad working as well, but do be careful. If you're feeling knee pain, it's probably because you're too far forward. That would put stress through your patella. So make sure you're sitting back, drop into it, use my hammy, press through my heel, no pressure through the knee, and press back up. Our next 2 exercises we're going to combine together. They both involve kettlebells. As you can see, very different sizes. What we're looking to do here is a lot more oblique, QL, back, and lat, and lateral exercises to try and stimulate our torso and get this much stronger. The first exercise I'm going to show you, we're using a relatively heavy kettlebell. What we're looking to do is get a nice, really good posture, tall stance. Feet are about as wide as the armpits, and we're actually going to work the opposite side. So we're going to work your obliques and your back muscles on the opposite side to where the kettlebell is. And the whole idea is because we do so much rotation and we need a good posture when we're in the boat, so we need this section to be really strong. So really important, kettlebell is hanging down your side but not against your legs. You actually want it to be off your body, which is immediately making this side of my body work to control this from falling. Okay, so it's a nice controlled movement. You can put your hand on your hip, even try and make sure that you're engaging your core as you do that. From here, I'm going to gently lower down towards the floor, sort of halfway down my calf. I'm trying to stay open in my chest. I'm trying to stay straight upright. So I'm not hunching forward. I'm really opening up. From there, opposite side engages to pull back up. And you can overpull and get a slight crunch on your other lateral side. From there, really slow, controlled, release down, engage, pull back up. Depending on how heavy the weight is, you can do anything from 10 to 15 reps. Just make sure you start with a light weight, get used to the movement, and then as you go, you can get heavier and heavier. Our second exercise, significantly lighter kettlebell. Now we're going to combine some flexibility, some strength, and shoulder stability. I'm going to show you how we do this exercise. We want to start off with a nice wide stance. You're going to press the kettlebell up above your head. You're looking at bicep touching against ear, nice full extension here, but also I've got the kettlebell upside down, which makes it a little bit more twitchy at the top, which means my forearm, my elbow, my whole shoulder all need to work to keep this maintained. An easier version would be to hang the kettlebell down, and that would make it significantly easier. So we're going to do the advanced version, straight up, hips are nice and open, stance is nice and wide with the legs, and from here I'm going to control the movement as I extend down towards the floor. And then from here, we want to then push through the shoulder and through the hip and core to press that kettlebell back up to the roof, trying to keep it nice and controlled. So down again, use the core, use the hip, press up to the roof. And again, depending on how heavy this kettlebell is and how flexible you are, is obviously how low you can go, but also how many reps. We usually recommend 8 to 10 reps, and then change over, change sides, nice extension, wide stance, down towards the floor, and press back up. And be mindful, you might find one side is weaker than the other, so really concentrate on that side until they both equal out. So the next drill in our go-to strength exercise for surf ski paddling is probably one of my favorites. It's not a pure strength exercise. We've combined a cable row with a half kneel sort of suspended lunge, and the whole idea is to simulate a little bit of how it feels to drive, leg drive, and arm pull and push in the boat. So really nice wide stance lunge. I'm going to drop down into what I call a suspended lunge. So I'm actually hanging here, which is putting a lot of load and work through my legs, so through my hamstring and my quads, as well as through my glutes and my hips. What you can do for a slightly easier version is just to start knee on the floor. Okay, so that's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more controlled, less moving parts. But I'm going to show you the more advanced version, so you're going to get yourself into a nice lunge. From there, nice open chest, core is tight and engaged, and it's a lot like the paddling stroke, as you would want to do a row as if you were paddling in the boat. I'm trying to keep my legs working but not rotating too much, and then I'm using lats, torso and core just to pull on the cable and simulate that rowing action. Obviously the heavier you make the cable, the more work that's going to happen and the more load on your whole body. We would do anywhere from 8 to 20 reps depending on what you were trying to achieve, an endurance set versus more of a strength set. And then obviously switch the legs over, switch the hands over, nice and low, suspended, good core, up tall, pull and rotate. And really drive through your feet so you get a lot of leg drive, even though your legs aren't actually flexing and extending. Alright, enjoy it.